They called him Dr. Death, a surgeon who left over 30 patients maimed, paralyzed, or dead in operating rooms across Texas. How did this happen? And why did hospitals, regulators, and colleagues let him continue his reign of surgical terror? What do you think about that, Meg?
Sounds scary.
Ugh, scary. The voice you're hearing, it's me, it's Matt, it's Beardlaws, and joining me as always is the beautiful, wonderful Dun Queen, Meg. This is the Yore Town Podcast. What's up, Meg?
Hey.
Man, we got a lot of things going on, don't we?
Always.
Woo! These kids, they better appreciate it someday. Just for me and you to have a date night, we got to sneak in the studio and do a podcast. Talk about Dr. Death. Think Dr. Death had a bunch of kids and date nights in a studio?
No.
I don't think so either.
I don't.
And obviously, we are going to dig deep into the chilling true crime story of Dr. Christopher Dunst. Duntsch. Yeah, all of those. Because we're going to go over his early years, his training, his botched surgeries, in horrifying details. Interviews with victims and families and stories and stuff that we saw in the research. You might even hear a little bit of some testimony from colleagues and prosecutors. The legal battle that put him behind bars and the broken healthcare system that let him keep cutting long after the alarm bells. Ring, ring, ring. You do the alarm bell. Wow. Oh, that's way better. That's where you get the sound effect.
That wasn't it.
All right, you want to try again?
No.
What was that?
I don't know.
It's like a super excited turkey.
I don't know.
Before those alarm bells that clearly we cannot do started ringing. So, before we jump into the early life of old Dr. Death, do you think we should do the intro, Meg?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think so? When should we do it?
Right now.
Right when?
Now.
What do you think of the cool fancy shelf behind us, Meg? Is it pretty cool?
It's pretty cool.
You like it?
I do.
Got a little lit up with some blue lights,
Mm-hmm.
huh?
Mm-hmm.
Showing off some friends of the show. You like it? We did it. Let's talk about the early life, the early years, the wonder years of old Dr. Death. Christopher Dunst. Is that how you'd say it? How would you say it? Duntsch?
Mm-hmm.
Duntsch was born in Montana and raised in Memphis in an affluent household. He played high school football and briefly college football before injuries and lack of, skill sidelined his dreams. I mean, you think he would have figured out the lack of skill before getting into college, but maybe. So then he said, you know what, I'm going to pivot to medicine, where early red flags started to emerge. According to testimony later given in court, old Christopher abused cocaine and LSD during medical school, with colleagues saying he sometimes operated after all-night binges. Despite repeatedly failing basic surgical proficiency tests, old Christopher charmed his superiors, talking up big dreams of stem cell breakthroughs and bringing in grant money that rarely materialized into results. It's exactly what I want. A doctor who parties way too hard. You think he's got a little CTE from playing football so much? The brain injury thing?
Maybe.
Topped with all of the hard drugs. It's a dangerous little cocktail there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
How many of these stories is it just red flag after red flag after red flag?
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems to get by. But, again, times were a little bit different, I guess. And during his neurosurgery residency, I started to combine neurosurgery and residency at the same time, at the University of Old Tennessee. I was going to do the old charm of, are you from Tennessee, Meg? Because you're the only 10 I see.
Nice.
Thank
Good
you.
one.
Smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Nurses and peers raised concerns, not about my behavior, but his behavior and his competence, because his behavior became very erratic. Documents later revealed he was removed from surgical rotations multiple times due to poor performances and concerns, about the old substance abuse. Still, he convinced administrators to grant him a degree. Leaning on connections and academic clout, some believed his research potentially outweighed his glaring surgical shortcomings. Something just fell in the studio and we're looking all around. I don't know what it was. It was something over that way.
Huh.
Way to go, Meg. You're texting too hard.
It's the ghost. That's what I'm sticking with.
Sure. All right. In 2011, Christopher began practicing in Dallas at Baylor Regional Medical Center at Plano. He presented himself as a pioneering neurosurgeon who would transform spinal surgery. Yikes. It's exactly where you don't want someone with red flags having to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the scenes, staff noticed immediately, Meg, that he was pretty arrogant, dismissive of advice, and often seemed underprepared, or even impaired. He was all of the paired. I heard he was even eating pears. He paired them with some wine, probably. Pears and wine. I think there was even some partridges in those pear trees. Somebody was telling me the other day that lemons can stay in a tree as a fruit for 4 months before they go bad. That's pretty good.
Interesting.
It is interesting. Never know what you're going to learn here on the Yore Town Podcast. So let's talk about the botched surgeries, because they start to begin. One of the first patients was actually one of his longtime friends, Jerry Summers. He botched the procedure so badly that Summers was left quadriplegic, with Dr. Death ignoring staff who pleaded with him to stop the operation. Weeks later, patient Kelly Martin bled to death when he nicked a major artery and failed to control the bleeding. Records show he ignored warnings and then refused help. Unreal. And despite these very, very horrific outcomes, Baylor allowed him to resign quietly and didn't report him to regulators. That is
sketchy.
Yeah. Just when you think the healthcare couldn't get any sketchier, stuff like this happens all the time. Just go ahead and resign real quick so we don't have to, deal about that lawsuit, huh? Oh, Christopher. Man, our healthcare sucks. Well, he then moved to Dallas Medical Center, Legacy Surgery Center, and other facilities over the next 2 years. He just kept moving around, going to different places. No big deal, right? And he started to work on other patients. He had Mary Afford. She couldn't walk when he was done. Lee Passmore had chronic pain and partial paralysis, and dozens more suffering lifelong injuries. Emails later obtained by prosecutors revealed he actually would brag that he, was going to be a cold-blooded killer in surgery. Ugh. That's exactly what you want to brag about, right?
Yeah, right.
Nurses described his operating rooms as slaughterhouses. Colleagues reported he ignored alarms, misplaced screws, removed healthy tissue, and left surgical sponges inside patients. Hospital administrators, they failed to act. They often feared lawsuits or damage to their reputations. The heck with all the families and the patients and everything that have sponges in them and extra screws and oh my God.
It's disturbing.
Yeah, especially when you have these nurses that are reporting that his operating rooms are like slaughterhouses. Especially when you're in Texas, they know slaughterhouses because there's a lot of cows out there, right? The beef capital of the world, I heard. Maybe I heard wrong. Just unbelievable that these continually piled up. An arrogant guy just bragging about killing people. How scary is this? That this guy was able to perform on people so poorly. It's like he didn't even know what he was doing. Has he never played the game Operation growing up as a kid? I bet he didn't even play Operation.
Maybe he meant to do it so poorly, though.
You think so?
I do.
Ugh. Interesting. But guess what, Meg? Texas law? Oh, Texas law. They're different down there. they did not require immediate reporting of dangerous doctors to the National Practitioner Data Bank. Hospitals used this loophole to quietly part ways with old Christopher. ProPublica later revealed emails where executives brushed off concerns as personality conflicts and encouraged staff to not put anything in writing that might hurt the hospital. But meanwhile, Dr. Randall Kirby and Dr. Robert Henderson became alarmed by the mounting victims, taking their case to the Texas Medical Board and then to prosecutors. Way to go, Kirby and Henderson. Because for years, they gathered records, built a timeline of victims, and pressured prosecutors. 2015, Dallas County DA's office charged old Christopher with multiple counts, including aggravated assault and injury to an elderly person. Prosecutors used over 4,000 pages of evidence, testimony from more than 30 patients, surgical photos, emails, and statements from staff and hospital executives to build their case. That's a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of work, but hey, doctors, nurses, they all have to take that oath. At least I'm pretty sure they do. I know in the state of New York, they got to take the oath to, do the things. And just took a couple of doctors to go out of their way and get it done, huh? Yikes. Dr. Death. What do you think he looks like, Meg? Paint it for us.
Skinny.
Skinny? That's it?
Long face.
Okay. Not super skinny.
No.
He's kind of a thick
Not
boy.
what I picked.
Kind of a thick boy. That would looks like a football player. Like he was a lineman or something, right? Man. Neurosurgeon. Dr. Death. Unbelievable. 33 total incidents, Meg, of gross neurosurgical malpractice while working in hospitals. 31 patients were maimed. Do you know what that means? Mutilated.
Maimed. Yes, I do know what that means.
You didn't know what I mean? I didn't know.
I did.
I said it the first time and I'm like, what the hell is maimed?
Yeah.
Mutilated. I got it out.
I did know that.
I guess I got it out of context, but 31 patients mutilated, maimed, 2 deaths. Ugh, I don't like this. And how he can continue to just practice in the state of Texas. I'm surprised he didn't try to move out of Texas. You know what I mean? And try to work elsewhere, like you see some of these serial killers that do things. Apparently, too, which is wild, that hospital officials and regulators found it hard to believe a surgeon could be so incompetent and dangerous that they almost didn't believe it was real in the reports and the rumors and everything that they heard. That's scary. That is scary.
Pretty sure there's a show about this.
I bet you there is. Are we going to watch it? It's probably a book. You should buy the book.
There is a show called Dr. Death.
Ooh.
There's 2 seasons.
Interesting.
Came out in 2021.
2021. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's talk about the trial, huh? I think we're about there. 2017. It was the trial. But before that, though, there was, I just want to bring up a couple of lawsuits before we jump to 2017, because in March 2014, 3 of the former patients, Mary Efrood, Kenneth Fennell, and Lee Passmore, which we mentioned a couple of them, actually filed separate federal lawsuits against Baylor Plano, alleging the hospital allowed him to perform surgeries despite knowing that he was a pretty dangerous doctor. Then there was a Texas general attorney, Greg Abbott, filed a motion to intervene in the suits and defend the hospital, citing the 2003 Texas state statute that capped civil damages for medical malpractices at just $250,000 and removed the term gross negligence from the legal definition of malice. The suit alleged that Baylor Plano made an average net profit of $65,000 on every spinal surgery performed by him. So they actually tiptoed and found their way around it. $65,000 the hospital made for him botching surgeries. That's disgusting. And one of the reasons that when Henderson and Kirby, one of their biggest fears and reasons for really pushing this case was they thought that he was actually going to move elsewhere, like we kind of were thinking, and probably still charm his way into a medical license there. So they were convinced that he was a clear and present danger to the public. So that's when they really started pushing all of this in 2015. So what a scary situation.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously he, before the trial, maybe it's not so obvious, but he ended up getting his license revoked, thankfully. And they revoked that on June 26, 2013, which is a pretty good thing. And the Texas Medical Board, December 6, 2013. In June is when it was filed, and it took a couple of months, so they finally revoke it. And what's even scarier, because of the fear that they did have, he did move to Denver, Colorado. After he lost his license, he went into a downward spiral. He declared bankruptcy after listing debts of over $1 million. He was arrested for a driving under the influence in Denver, taken to a psychiatric evaluation in Dallas during a visit to see his children, and was arrested in Dallas for shoplifting. Man, who would have thought all that years of substance abuse finally caught up to Dr. Death, huh?
So he did have kids.
Did have kids. Probably not in a podcast studio, though.
Probably not.
Probably not. Let's go to July 2015. Approximately a year and a half after his medical license was revoked, he was arrested in Dallas and charged with 6 felony counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, 5 counts of aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury, and 1 count of injury to an elderly person. The indictments were made 4 months before the statute of limitations would have expired. Close one, huh? The last charge was for maiming and paralyzing of Eford. Prosecutors put a pretty high priority on that charge, as it provided the widest sentencing range. Good for them. With him facing up to life in prison if convicted, they also believed that the charge was easy to prove in court. He apparently was told repeatedly that he was not placing the hardware in the correct position, and fluoroscopy images prove this. Prosecutors sought a sentence long enough to ensure that he would never practice medicine again. For the same reason, prosecutors opted to try him for Eford's maiming first. Seems like a good move. Mm-hmm. Biggest sentence, do it first. 2 years until the case went to trial in 2017. But this time, he was almost penniless, and the court appointed a lawyer for him. Yikes. That's not good times, huh? Nope. And they argued that obviously he should have known that he was likely to hurt others unless he changed his approach, and that failure to learn from the past mistakes demonstrated that he was maiming of Eford was intentional. By her team's estimate, between them, Christopher's patients lost 23 liters of blood, more than 10 times what they should have lost had he operated correctly. That's a lot of blood. Ugh. They faulted, obviously, the supervisors at the University of Tennessee for signing off on his credentials despite knowing about his history of drug abuse. They also faulted his employers for not reporting him. There was a lot of arguing going on. None of this should have happened. And after 13 days of trial, the jury needed only 4 hours to convict him for maiming of Eford. At the punishment phase, as the penalty phase is called in Texas, prosecutors called 10 more patients who had been maimed by him after he maimed Eford. They argued that Christopher had sentenced his patients to a life of pain or death and deserved the same lifelong sentence that they received. That seems fair. Mm-hmm. February 20th, 2017, they only need an hour to sentence him to life in prison. December 10th, 2018, the Texas Court of Appeals affirmed his conviction by a 2-1 split decision. May 8th, 2019, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals refused petition for discretionary review. The 4 hospitals that employed him are still ongoing civil cases against him. Anybody's that's wondering, he's in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Number 0213900003 is housed at the O.B. Ellis Unit outside Huntsville. Even with the credited of time served in Dallas County Jail before trial, he's not eligible for parole until July of 2045. Wild. Interesting. What else is wild in kind of the pop culture? Wondery Media launched a podcast called Dr. Death with the first season of 10 episodes focusing on old Christopher. Dr. Death is an 8-episode TV miniseries based on the podcast. And it began streaming, Meg, where you looked up on Peacock, July 15th, 2021. It's got a couple of stars on there that I didn't really have ever heard of. But Joshua Jackson plays Dr. Death. Didn't know of him, but... And in 2019, he was the focus of a premiere episode of License to Kill, Oxygen series on criminal medical professionals. Wild, huh? Mm-hmm. And he was also profiled in a 2021 episode, The Real Dr. Death, of the television series American Greed. I haven't heard of any of those, have you?
No.
Shows you how much TV we watch, huh? But, yeah. I mean, this case is just wild and thankfully has led to new laws in Texas requiring hospitals to report problematic doctors to regulators and spur national conversations about patient history. Absolutely wild, chilling, and you feel terrible for those families and the patients and everything else that were just left with, well, pain. Some of them actually passed on. Mm-hmm. But that's a wrap, Meg. We did it. We had another little special Yore Town podcast and doubles as a date night, right? Date day. But either way, we'll continue to do this and hopefully we'll keep it fun. And whoever's still out there listening, we appreciate you. And should we do it again next week, Meg?
Sure thing.
Might as well, right?
Might as well.
Might as well. All right, everybody. That is in the business what they call a wrap. We'll see y'all next week. That's all I got. Bye-bye.
Bye.